Well, if you say something clever now, whether you say something that's clever or not, it's going to get recorded. Okay, I was thinking more about this design thing. Whenever we use the term design, we usually think in terms of like the human body, uh, you know, the cell, DNA, systems like eyes and opposable systems like muscles, the biceps and the triceps, they interrelate. They're not independent systems. They're dependent systems. They're systems that know about each other and depend on each other. These kinds of things, heart muscle and arteries and so forth. Incredible. Thumbs versus fingers. There seems to be a opposability that is also necessary. And I was watching this YouTube video about what the likelihood about what it would take to put life on Mars. And I used to say I don't think we're ever going to go to Mars. I don't think we'll ever go to another planet. And after watching that and some others, I'm thinking even more. I don't think we're ever going to go to another planet because of the changes that would take place. It's simply biologically, the biological problems are insurmountable because you got zero gravity for 6 to 9 months to get there. You got 38% gravity while you're there for a year or two, and then zero gravity on the way back. And so by the time you got back, your heart, which has become used to pumping blood, your heart right now pumps against gravity. So it's like doing push-ups for your muscles. If you don't do anything with your muscles, they atrophy. And so if your heart doesn't have to push against gravity, same thing happens and you lose muscle mass. Uh, bone is the same way. You bone loss over that period of time. So you come back to Earth and your heart can't do it. Your heart can no longer pump against gravity. So, there's and then there's the there's the bacterial flora problem. There's all kinds of problems associated with this, designed to live on this planet. So in my view, all of these projects that you think you're going to put life on another planet, there's only one other planet you could ever even think about, and that's Mars. You're never getting to another star system. You're never going to get to the nearest other planet, which is the exoplanet around Proxima Centauri b, which is 4.5 light years away. You're never going to get there. So Mars is it. And so I was thinking about that in between videos of watching people fall, and
You have a sadistic way about you.
well, one of the videos was 20 minutes long, and I thought, am I the only one that just how bad am I? And I look, it's 1.7 million views. So there's at least 1.7 million of me for that one alone. Anyway, so we talked about this. This is the heliosphere. We talked about the Oort cloud and so forth last week. That cloud of debris, space debris that surrounds the sun at up to a light year away. And we talked about the heliosphere, which is the sphere of charged particles that the sun gives off. And as the sun moves through the universe, it leaves a trail of these charged particles. It looks kind of like a comet. You just can't see it. And that's the heliosphere. So here you can see Voyager 1 and 2 have just reached the heliosphere. They're outside of it, one light day. And they're on their way. But they're outside. Now they're subject to all of what's the point of the heliosphere? Is it just this thing that happens to be true that doesn't matter? Well, no, because there's charged particles and radiation in interstellar space. And so this heliosphere by the sun protects everything inside the solar system from interstellar radiation. So there's that. So now that Voyager 1 and 2 are leaving the heliosphere, they will now be subject there's no protection against the solar radiation, I mean, the interstellar radiation, charged particles and so forth. So that's the case. We are protected from the interstellar hazards by the sun and its heliosphere, its cloud of charged particles. So that takes care of interstellar radiation, which means that, well, no, we'll get back to that. But what about the sun, which is only 93 million miles away from the Earth? What's the problem with life, with maintaining life on Mars, for example? Well, not interstellar radiation, but solar radiation, the radiation that's put off by the sun. So what protects us from solar radiation, from the radiation of the sun? We are protected by the sun from interstellar, but solar is another matter. This is the Earth inside. So we're in another macro universe, right? Another macro reality. We've talked about the one at the macro level, you know, the interstellar astronomical level reality that we can't even see. And then there's a solar reality that we can't see either, usually, which is the planets and comets and so on and so forth. Well, underneath our feet, there's an additional invisible reality that is every bit as important as any other part of the realities that we can't see or can see. And so what you're looking at is the Earth's core. Earth has an inner and outer core. The inner core probably, maybe, is a solid core of nickel and iron. And wrapped around it is the outer core, which is liquid.
How do they know iron?
That's a great, they observe
They can't drill down there.
they observe the effects of it. How do they know anything about another star? Like how far away it is or how big it is? You know, yeah, they measure that. That's right. And they have, I don't really know. I don't really know
It's just kind of their best guess right now based on like how things shift with tectonic plates and things. They don't really have the reason to think that's 100% true. They're just, could be.
It could be an
It could be.
undiscovered element down there.
that's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what it will remain their best guess. Anyway,
Have they ever been down to the mantle?
this is thousands of miles,
Okay.
liquid rock. I mean, you know, what they've been down? What have they been down? 3,000 feet? I don't even know.
Somebody drilled 9 miles once.
Is that it?
I remember reading about that.
Yeah, that's right. It's some handful of miles.
But that's not what comes out of a volcano. That's not the same when we have liquid.
right here.
Lava. That's not.
That's the mantle.
It is.
That's molten lava.
I remember as a kid, the idea was that they started digging a hole and you could run out the tunnel in China.
Yeah.
Which is not actually true.
No, it probably goes somewhere.
But yeah, when you wonder why it only freezes down to about 3 feet, 3.5 feet, it never freezes further in Michigan.
In Michigan.
The reason is that mantle right there, that liquid rock, which is this unbelievable source of heat, which maintains a temperature below 4 feet of like, I forget, 50 degrees, something like that. That's why your water pipe only has to go down however far it goes down.
Now, I'll tell you, in northern Maine, the frost line was 6
Hmm.
feet. So it's
You're talking about 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet. That's it. Everything else is owned by now it's different, of course, in Antarctica, but Antarctica is a mile of ice.
Yeah.
It's not, below the ice, you get to the ground, the dirt, it's probably the same thing.
But I'm sure that there is actually dirt there. It's not just ice.
No, I think I don't know. That's a good question. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Antarctica is not a floating body of ice.
Uh,
It's a continent. Yeah. It's,
I know it's called continental, how do they know?
Do they see the land? as
well,
rich?
they can drill, they could probably drill to that. Yeah, I mean, I don't, yeah. Yeah, you're gonna-
South Pole, right?
Yeah, you can use radar to know you hit something solid. But anyway, why does this matter? Well, it turns out this is absolutely essential for life on planet Earth because this is the source of our protection from solar radiation. And without it, bad things happen. So why? Well, this liquid iron and nickel produces a magnetic field, an extremely strong magnetic field, which neither Mars nor Mercury nor Venus have. Which is why, in the case of Mercury and Mars, they don't really have an atmosphere. Mercury, I don't think has any. Mars has this very, very thin atmosphere. Why does that matter?
So that's related to the atmosphere then. Having-
Absolutely. Because here's the magnetic sphere. It's called the magnetosphere. So we have the heliosphere protecting the solar system from interstellar radiation. And you have the magnetosphere protecting the Earth from solar radiation, which is an extremely high rate of protection, like 99 point something percent. That's why you can walk outside. It's also why we have an atmosphere, because if we didn't have the magnetosphere, what would happen to the atmosphere with the onslaught of the solar radiation? Just rip it away like it did Mars, if Mars ever had anything stronger than what it does now.
And the way it's drawn there, is that why we get northern lights and?
Yeah, that's all because of the magnetic,
Okay.
yeah. The interaction between the magnetic field and the solar radiation.
Yeah. Is it the northern lights and southern?
I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about it, but you can see how even that looks like it has like a comet
Yeah.
appearance to it.
No, I don't have a scientific mind. I don't understand how all things work one to another. But I do know that it all has to be there in order for there to be life here on Earth. And that's part of God's wisdom and design.
So here we have more design that we just take for granted and don't even think about for one single second. Also, you know, we have vehicles like the International Space Station, which are just up there, and astronauts go up there for 6 months at a time. Could they do that if there wasn't a heliosphere? If they were under the onslaught of interstellar particles, interstellar radiation, how long would they last in? They do, and this magnetosphere extends like 40,000 miles.
So.
And so they're inside of this, they're inside of the magnetosphere, so they're protected. Just if they didn't have that, they would never make it from against solar radiation.
So the space station, is it closer to the sun or further from the sun than the Earth?
The space station is several hundred miles above the surface of the Earth.
Right, I know that, but is it closer to the sun or further from the sun than the Earth?
They have to orbit based on the Earth having mass that has to go around us.
Not stationary.
So as it gets to like this side of the Earth where the sun
Okay,
is,
so
their
sometimes
daytime
it's
days
closer.
would be close.
Yeah, it's like the moon. It's a satellite that's orbiting the planet. But anyway, reason you can send people up into an International Space Station is precisely because of the magnetosphere. Well, are you going to have a magnetosphere on your way to Mars? And on Mars, what protects you from solar radiation? So there's another problem. But the point being, life on Earth exists because of this meticulously designed and engineered system from the smallest micro level, nano level, all the way, all the way down to, you can go smaller than DNA, proteins, amino acid, the chains of amino acids, all the way up to how the solar system is designed. at least. I don't doubt that someday they'll discover why the York cloud is necessary for some reason. We talked about the cloud of debris or something. But anyway, certainly our solar system is meticulously and precisely what the life exists in our solar system because the solar system itself is so meticulously and precisely designed.
Very, yeah.
So if you're gonna find life on another planet, you know, you got a 1 in a trillion for this, and you got a 1 in a trillion for that, and a 1 in a trillion for this other thing. That's a lot of 1 in a trillions that have to be right, because one of the arguments is, well, there's a lot of planets out there. There's trillions of planets out there. My response is, yeah, you need them. To even stand the remotest possible chance of having life on one of them, you need trillions of iterations of the process to even hope to get a small chance of one hit. Well, we got one. So now what are the chances of a second hit? Now, independently, of course, it's the same chance from a secular perspective as the first chance. But you know, if it's unlikely, if lightning striking that tree out there is unlikely, what is the likelihood that lightning strikes that tree? Now, lightning does strike in many places, so maybe the analogy falls apart. But in the case of our own solar system, if you're going to find life on Mars, that's lightning striking twice in the same place. If you're counting on evolution, the evolution of life on 2 planets that are adjacent to each other, if it's astronomically unlikely on one of them, what's the likelihood that it happens on 2 next to each other? You know, it's astronomical squared. I don't know. But anyway, design everywhere, all the way down, all the way up. It's unbelievable. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Wow. So he didn't just begin to go to work on the earth. He shaped a solar system. He crafted a solar system, including the moon, which we haven't even talked about yet, which is responsible for tides, tidal gravity, which is responsible for all kinds of things that matter here on Earth.
Not
So-
just the ocean, you mean? The
Yeah.
tide?
Tides, yeah. So the tilt of the Earth with the seasons, it's incredible. So I've never liked the odds argument. Well, you know, there's a lot of iterations of mutations, so it's, you know, eventually we're going to have one that's good. Well, you know, there's a lot of planets out there, so, you know, it's likely that there's another. I've heard scientists say it's certain that there's life on other planets. Why would you say that? What do you know about the origin of life on Earth that would cause you to say that it's certain that it happened on another planet? You don't even know how it happened here. You have no idea how life originated on planet Earth. How on earth can you say anything about life originating on another planet? Tell me about life. How about you solve the problem of life on this planet where you know it exists before we move on to your speculation about life on another planet? Can we please? All right. Amazing, in my view. All right, we came through 41 last time, which was Joseph interpreting 2 dreams. These are the second doublet of dreams, the first being one by his brothers, one about his brothers, and one about his mother and father and brothers. Somebody's really anxious to get a hold of me. But maybe it was somebody for this. And where's Joseph right now?
He is in prison.
He is at his bottom. Fine. What's that? Oh. So it took him 2 dreams, got him to Egypt. He dreamed his way into Egypt. He had 2 dreams, which threw his brothers over the edge. And the result was that it landed him in Egypt and eventually in this prison. Well, now there's been 2 more dreams. And the end of the story of these 2 dreams, you're going, oh, hopeful. We're hopeful here. Something's good is going to happen. Because, you know, the chief cupbearer is going to get his position back with Pharaoh, and good things are going to happen. And then the story ends with the chief cupbearer forgot. And you go, poor Joseph. He just can't get a break. But the dreams are still out there, and that takes us to chapter 41. Dreams are the vehicle all the way through this. Only usually it's God, it's somebody having a dream where God appears, but now it's not. It's dreams about about the way things are going to go. Before, with Abraham and Jacob, and even Laban, it's about what God is doing, and he's notifying. This is what I'm going to do. Well, now these pagans are having these dreams, and it is about what God is going to do, but there's no God in it yet, except that there's obviously a connection between Joseph, the interpreter, and God, which will become explicit right now.
Yeah, there's no people in the dreams there. Ears,
Yes.
sheaves of wheat,
They're
baskets on heads.
premonitions. They're exactly what the Egyptians either fear or hope they are. In the case of the chief butler, it was exactly what he hoped it was, a premonition about his good fortune. And in the case of the chief baker, it was what he was not hoping for, which was a premonition of his death. All right, so now there's two more dreams coming. After 2 whole years, notes. Well, let's see how far I go.
You got your notes again.
Well, that's worse than that. I don't have any paper at home, so I keep forgetting to get paper at Meyer.
The email to me by Friday morning, I can always have.
I do. Second, after 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. So we immediately transition into another dream. And behold, there came up out of the Nile. So we're having a dream about the Nile, which is very, very important. We'll get back to why the Nile mattered to the Egyptians. The Nile was life, so we'll talk about that. Came up out of the Nile. What came up out of the Nile? 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the green grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive and plump cows. What would you expect to happen? You would expect it to be the other way around. You wouldn't imagine that 7 emaciated cows would consume the 7 healthy
They're
cows.
hungry. What I wouldn't expect is that they're still skinny.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I retract my interpretation. This is why I'm not interpreting dreams for anybody. And Pharaoh awoke,
That is McCollum meeting.
and he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, I don't know if that's abnormal or not. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. There's the east again. Does anything good ever come from the east in Genesis? Right? It's never the case, right? And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning, his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Okay. What do we know so far? Let me get this for Laura so I can get some notes. Only 41. Thank you. What do we know so far? Let's do our own interpreting. What can we say? Well, let's read between the lines. Let's do some of that. Let's read between the lines. What is this? Let's start with the Nile. What was the Nile in Egyptian life?
That's the water source. The rich farmland would be along the Niles.
So if the Nile curses you, if you have a dream where the Nile produces ugly, emaciated cows that consume the plump cows, that would be disturbing. if you just see deity and if you're that superstitious, right, that the physical world represents sentient beings, meaning conscious beings.
Did they worship the Nile? Or was
They
that-
did worship the Nile. Hapi, Hapi.
Okay.
Let's look at that. Just a safe search. God of the Nile, let's just use straight up. Although you know what? Now let's just do it. I hate giving in and using AI. I feel like I've been defeated. So he's the God, he is the God who is the Nile. Or the God of the Nile. I don't know which way to think of it better. But he's the God then, the God of fertility, the fertility God that gives you rain in due season because the Nile floods and so on and so forth. And so he gives you fruitful harvest, or he takes it away. So probably they had the same thing with the sun, Ra, the sun god. So when, we'll get to this eventually in Exodus, when the world goes dark, when the Nile turns to blood, the Egyptians were able to do that, but nothing like what happened with Moses.
Yeah.
They couldn't get water anywhere. So it was not just the defeat of the Nile. It was not just a curse on their water supply. It was there's a war going on between gods, namely Yahweh and these various and sundry gods that these Egyptians worship. The first one up was the Nile, their nearest and dearest, along with the sun, because that's fertility. And so he does the same thing when there was darkness over all the land. So what's the big deal? Yeah, it's dark for a little while. Imagine how traumatizing it would be to every day look up and see the sun god smiling down at you. And then in walks this man, Moses, a prophet, who says, let my people go. And he says, no. And you've already been through how many? Was it 8? I don't remember where darkness was on the list. So everybody's going, oh man, what's going to happen next? We've already seen the Nile, God defeated. There's darkness over all the land, and such thick darkness, you can't see your hand in front of your face. This God, Yahweh, has blotted out our mighty sun God, erased him for as long as he wants. That's what's going on. So that's how they viewed these things, these phenomena, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, were important in life in their minds, and I don't know why they would worship the moon. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but in the case of the sun and the Nile, it's vital for life, and so they worship them. And they mistook them for sentient, conscious beings. Okay, so Nile right away. That's going to get Pharaoh's undivided attention. All life-centered, originated from the Nile, in a sense. Oh, got my notes now. Let's see what we got here. So nobody's interpreting. What's going on there? There's none who could interpret the dreams. There's nobody who's going to bother with that one, huh?
They didn't even try.
Nobody wants to take a shot. Maybe there's some bad news in this. If it would have been that the plump cows, healthy cows, consumed the emaciated cows, I'll bet the magicians would have lined up to interpret that dream. But now you have the emaciated ones devouring the healthy ones. And nobody's touching that with a 10-foot pole. Nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news. That's how I see it. Everybody knows these dreams spelled some sort of doom, some sort of trouble coming for Egypt. And what they need is somebody with guts enough to give Pharaoh the news. And what he doesn't know is that the guy who's going to give him the news is also going to give him the solution. This kind of foreshadows in my mind also the plagues of Egypt. The magicians eventually failed. I forget which one they failed at, which one was the first one that they failed. They did produce frogs, but
The third place that they failed on, I don't remember which one.
but then after they produced frogs, see, we did it. We produced frogs. Moses was like, no, you ain't seen nothing yet. Take a look at this. And then the nation is just consumed by frogs. So even though you could see right there, the magicians are now overwhelmed and they fail. And then eventually they can't even begin to replicate the plagues anymore. And if they did, they would be damaging Egypt anyway. So this kind of, in my mind, foreshadows the discrediting of the magicians in like so many other elements of this part of the story of Genesis. We're seeing foreshadowing, anticipating, prefiguring of what's going to happen during the Exodus.
Yeah, the magicians on the third plague could not produce gnats.
Gnats.
And from there on out, I don't think they could.
But anyway, it undoubtedly produced a vague sense of doom because they worship the god of the Nile, Happy or Happier, whatever. It doesn't come over to English very well. So that's the setup. But since we mentioned, since it's after 2 years, the reference point is Joseph already after 2 years. After 2 years after what? After the cupbearer was restored, Joseph's still in, that's a reminder then, after 2 years, Joseph is still in prison. Dreaming is happening. Now we're going to move on, 9 through 13. Then the chief cupbearer, oh, here he comes. About time, said to Pharaoh, now he has a stake in this. You could say, well, I applaud him he's just doing the right thing. Is he? Or was there, Pharaoh had these dreams and the word gets out and all the land of Egypt is disturbed by this. And the cupbearer too says, wow, boy, we have some bad news coming. There's something bad coming. Who's got some bad news? We don't know what it is. And now that I think of it, I know the guy that can probably interpret this. So I'm going to go tell on myself and then take a chance that Pharaoh's not going to hang me like he did the baker. The best case scenario is he just forgets about me. He says, all right, get out of here. And, So the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew, there he is, was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. So we don't know whether this Pharaoh is the Pharaoh of 2 years ago. In which case, he's really forgotten. If it's a new Pharaoh, life goes on. So now things happen really quick. Starting at 14. And then figures, right? And the narrative speeds up. And it kind of reflects the anxiety in the events of the time. Right? There's a sense of urgency about this, and the narrative speeds up at the same time. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. I don't know what that means. Man, he can't get out of the pit, can he? He was in a pit in his own land. That's where he got pulled out of that's what he got thrown into before he became a slave. When he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. So what's going on here? Well, turns out, if you look at ancient Egyptian statues, they had a lot of hair on the face.
No.
They didn't have this, they didn't do that. So the Hebrew says, I want to make myself presentable. So you can see him conforming in line with, in a sense, assimilating into Egyptian life right now. That's how I read it. What was this word search I did? Pharaoh said to Joseph, verse 15, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. So he's not telling him the dream. In the case of the magicians, he told them the dream, and they couldn't interpret it. Pharaoh's not playing. I want you to tell me, before I tell you the dream, I want you to tell me that you can whether you can interpret it without hearing the dream. This is eerily parallel to Daniel, where was it Nebuchadnezzar? Said, look, I'm sick of you people. You want me to tell you the dream? You're supposed to be the magicians. No, I'm not going to tell you the dream. You tell me the dream, or else. Daniel comes in. What did Daniel do?
Saved a lot of men's lives.
What did he do with the dreams? Didn't he tell the dream back? He told the dream back.
He did, eventually.
He told him the dream. He says, all right, I'll tell you what your dream was. And he tells him the dream. In this case, Joseph doesn't tell him the dream, but he says, yep, I can do that for reasons. Verse 16, Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. So yes, you tell me the dream, and I will tell you the interpretation, but I'm not going to take credit for it. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I was standing on the banks of the Nile, twice told story, second telling of the dreams. 7 cows, plump and attractive, came up out of the Nile and fed in the reed grass. 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and thin, such as I had never seen in the land of Egypt. And the thin, ugly cows ate up the first 7 plump cows. But when they had eaten, here's the additional part that would be even more disturbing. But when they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were still as ugly as at the beginning. Then I awoke. I saw also in my dream 7 ears growing on one stalk, full and good. 7 ears, withered, thin, and blighted by the east wind, sprouted up after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears, and I told it to the magicians, but there was no one who could or would interpret it to me, explain it to me. Over to Joseph, right? Over to you. You said you could interpret this. And probably by the life of Pharaoh, if you don't interpret it, Joseph knows. Where is Joseph going if he can't interpret the dream? At least back to prison. This is his one and only chance. So this is how fast things happen. He's languishing in prison, as far as he knows, for the rest of his life. It's been 2 years, day after day after day. Then he gets the word. And all of a sudden, right straight into Pharaoh's, hurry up, change your clothes, cut that thing off your face, get dressed, let's go. Right straight into Pharaoh's presence. Does he have any idea why? Or was he just summoned? Hey, the jailer hears the message. Hey, he wants to see Joseph. Get him ready. And he's in the presence of, he's suddenly just ushered into the presence of Joseph. So as far as we know, the first time Joseph knows why he's in the presence of Pharaoh is when Pharaoh tells him. And without any preparation, he just says, yes, I can do this. I can tell you, I can interpret your dreams for you. Without ever having heard them. But he does know that the baker, he recently had the baker executed. So there's that knowledge. You see here in 16, God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. He seems to already know the interpretation. Or he seems to already know that the dreams are favorable. If you do the right thing, if you do what's about to be told you to do, if you do that, everything will be, not only will everything be fine, probably you will come out, you will be better off this having happened, which is exactly for Pharaoh, which is exactly how it went. He also uses God here. He does not use, this is interesting, the Lord, capitals, that's Yahweh, the name, the covenant name of God. That name will now disappear from use by anyone in the narrative. Look at this. So the 146, the Lords, some of these would be smalls. I don't know if you can do, I don't know, can you do case sensitive? I don't think it matters. Oops, the large. Oh, you can. Oh. Take a look at, no, it's the same number. Oh, man, what have I done? It's hard to get back to 146 of them. So look at all these uses, 146 in Genesis. Some of those are Adonai, the other thing, but if you take the point. But you'll notice that once you get past chapter, I just had this up, and I look how quickly it goes. Once you get past chapter 30, right there, 39, actually, when's the last time? 31. The last time anybody used the term, the name Yahweh, was Laban in 31. Is that right? That's this right here. That's Laban speaking when he chased down Jacob and they separated from each other. But I don't think that it's used again. Only the narrator. That's not the use of it. Now you move in. That's it. So Joseph will never use the covenant name of God in the narrative. He will use God, Elohim, the neutral. So he uses the term God here. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. He may have been talking to somebody who was considered a god. I've looked into this a little bit. It kind of went back and forth. Sometimes the Pharaoh was worshipped as a god and sometimes he wasn't. But the Pharaoh was highly venerated any which way, no matter what. But there he is using it. You are under the sovereignty of the God. You are under, Pharaoh, you are under the God of, you are under the sovereignty of the God that I brought with me from Canaan. He came into Egypt with me, and you are under his sovereignty right now. So do what I'm about to tell you to do, because he's going to tell you what's coming in the next 14 years. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, wait a minute, did I already read this? Yeah, I did. Where did I stop? 21. So after the cows says, but when they had eaten them, let's see, yeah, I did all the cows through 21. He retells the story of the cow, the dream of the cows. And then in 22, he tells the story of the ears of grain. 7 years growing on one stalk, full and good. 7 years withered, thin, and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them. It's exact repeat of what twice told story. Thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears. I told them they were not able to. I had read all this. They could not explain it to me. So that's the setup. And Joseph, without hesitation, without let me pray about it, without consultation with God, without any rituals done, simply, immediately interprets the dream for him. Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears, blighted by the east wind, are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land. and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's, he not only interprets the dreams, he interprets the fact that there were two dreams. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. It's urgent. Now, therefore, Pharaoh didn't even ask for this. He could have stopped right there and just, I've interpreted the dreams for you. He keeps going. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, hint, hint, set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine. So you're the magician standing off to the side, and this prison slave comes waltzing in and just dumps this on Pharaoh. So it's humiliating. That's how I read it. I don't know, a lot more to say about that. All the way to 36. Do I?
Does Joseph's interpretation of this dream make him a prophet? Because he's foretelling.
He did a good understanding now that he's ever called a prophet. but
Yeah.
he's-
Never heard him called
Well, define prophet.
a foreteller.
One who speaks in the name of the Lord. They usually say something like, "Thus says the Lord," or, on the other hand, oh, I don't know. I would not consider him a prophet.
Okay.
He never says anything that becomes prophetic word. Although Moses was called a prophet. Oh, well, he did say. Yeah.
Abraham's called. God referred to Abraham as being a prophet, even though he never said, "Thus says the Lord."
Hmm.
And so I would say Joseph in the same line, perhaps, but it's really hard to say. There's foretelling and there's foretelling.
Okay.
Well, we should probably, let's start.
Do you think Joseph was hinting at this job?
I don't think he was, but
I doubt it.
I think he was Christ.
Because you were saying
Yeah.
hint, so
Yeah.
Hint for the narrative.
oh, okay.
That's prophetic.
Mhm.
For the narrative, that's a foretelling when he says, "Let Pharaoh appoint." Well, we already know who he would appoint, who he's going to appoint to do this job. So,
It's possible that Joseph started to see his dream coming to fruition. Because his dreams about his family bowing down to him are all tied into this.
could be.
But
that's-
we don't know.
That's the story, half of it. It's a long chapter. That's why we're going to stop now. We'll treat the remaining 37, almost 20 verses, 20 verses exactly, as a unit, which will end with. So let's do that. At least look at it. After 2 years, you have Joseph you have two. The chapter starts with Joseph languishing in prison for 2 years.
That's 2 years after the interpretation of the book.
And it's going to end, the story will end with all the earth coming to Joseph. Right there. Talk about a change in circumstance, man. That's amazing.
And I'm dried up during this time period, no one's coming my boat.
Yeah, how did they would have walked? Everybody would be walking into Egypt, which they probably didn't particularly. They would have to control that. Oh, they have to control the Nile, any transport on the Nile too. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and stop. Get below the surface, and it's fascinating stories. Thanks all.